How's it going, Chris?
Hey, Caleb, how's it going?
Good.
To help us with our ongoing investigation of Skinwalker Ranch, we've been trying to engage as many people as possible who took part in the previous operations over the last 2 decades.
What's it like coming back?
It's pretty surreal, actually, you know? It's kind of like being back home a little bit, you know?
Chris Bartell is a former military officer who was contracted by Robert Bigelow and the Defense Intelligence Agency when they were investigating Skinwalker Ranch several years ago. We used to have trouble getting guys like him to share anything about what they've seen out here.
There's a it that's in control.
But after last week's visit by another former Bigelow employee, Colonel John Alexander, and the federal government's report last year acknowledging the existence of UAPs, it's like the floodgates have finally opened up.
I know a couple years ago, I was worried about, you know, maybe possibly losing a clearance, talking about some of the experiences I had here on the property.
Losing a clearance as far as like a security clearance?
Right. It was a concern because, you know, I'm still active in the federal department. I'm still operating. And now it's more of a mainstream topic, it seems like. I was a BAS security investigator for Bigelow Aerospace for Skinwalker Ranch from the years 2010 to 2016. BAS stands for Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies. It was the organization to study UFO phenomena. This is also during the time of the federal contract, OSAP. OSAP stands for Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program. I was one of the lead members out here that spent lots of time exploring, documenting data, and also safekeeping and protecting the property. I have a lot of experiences out here. You know, I lived and breathed this property for 6 years. I would love to show you guys some of the things that I went through and the important aspects of the property.
Well, I'm eager to do that. I think we throw you in the UTV right here and let's start across because I want to hear everything that happened.
That sounds good. I appreciate it.
We have this 20-year gap where Mr. Bigelow owned the ranch, for which we know very little. Having somebody that spent 6 years here and spent a lot of time during that 6 years is critical and could be crucial to helping us solve some of the mysteries that are here on the ranch.
Yeah, right here.
I'll just park here then. I find it interesting that you stop us here. This is by a place we call the Triangle. Been a place we've done a lot of experiments and research and had a lot of interesting data. So I'm curious, tell me about what you experienced here.
So October of 2010, we had a pretty good routine where one guy would do a normal run through the property to get a kind of eyes on what's going on. That day, the other officer came back and he was like, hey, I found some big prints on top of the mesa. And I'm like, okay, let's go take a look at them. We get to the top of here and we find these pretty good sized canine prints. I have photos of those if you'd like to see them.
Yeah, I'd love to see those.
Here, take a look at this. You can see here, look at those, how deep those go down.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh. That's about 3 feet between step.
And then we had a couple labs with us. You can see here in the top corner, the labs prints.
That thing's like 4 times the size of those.
That's a very big canine.
Seeing this picture, you can tell by both the size and the stride that we're talking about a very large animal. It makes me think about the legend of the Skinwalker. The legend of the Skinwalker is that it's an entity that can shapeshift. Often the lore is having it go from a wolf to a man. And for whatever reason, this piece of ground was cursed with the Skinwalker.
I was here, the other officer was right there, and the dogs were kind of in between us. And the other officer says, Chris, stop, I hear something. And I'll never forget this, because it's been replaying in my mind forever since this day. Out of that ditch, I hear a god-awful, guttural howl growl. And I was like frozen for a second. And so was the other officer, and the dogs were all alerting. The animal jumps out of the ravine, over the berm, and travels west. This thing was probably the size of a donkey, black. Instinctively, the dogs chase after it. I run after the dogs. We get around that corner there. It's gone.
Wow.